a small area or even within the agency, and then make a hard law. I think this definitely effective approach.
Can you elaborate, Professor? I think the South Korea issued a national strategy 4 or 5 years ago about Industry 4.0. So how did it go with this? More enforcement or more funding, or what was the policy elements used to strengthen the positioning of South Korea in Industry 4.0?
In Korea, if Korean approach is that very top-down. Still, we have a very top-down approach. I don't know whether it is good or not. It is kind of cultural issue, or this is kind of issue. But I personally think that Korean government, Korean president, has their own special committee on the fourth industrial revolution. So legalization, legislation, and legal framework, and also strategy, the president himself preside the meeting about fourth industrial revolution. And related ministers and secretaries all convened one tables. So it is very exclusive and very enforcement. So this kind of very aggressive approach, I think makes sense in this turbulent, uncertain world. What do you think, Adil?
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question here. Can you just a little bit more describe governance innovation elements of governance innovation? Is it clear, or I need Mr. Arif to elaborate more on this?
Please elaborate about more. I said about government innovation and governance innovation and policy innovation. There are three concepts. Government innovation is budget innovation, and within the government there is some human resources and the financial issues and even decision-making structure. This is government innovation. When I say about governance innovation, this is a little bit broader collaboration between and among government and also business corporate and also NGOs in the civil society. So in overall collaboration framework, I called it governance innovation. And then policy innovation is a little bit more focused on, as I said, agenda setting, policy making, and implementation, and evaluation and analysis. These are the policy innovation.
Thank you very much.
Is it clear?
Mr. Arif, do you want to elaborate on your question, or is it answered? You can talk now. Just
Arif,
unmute.
sorry. Arif, sorry.
Yes, yeah, actually, am I audible?
Salam alaikum.
Yeah, my question was that as in, when you...
I can't hear you well. Adil, please translate.
Yes, I can't hear as well. I think there is a connection issue.
Mm-hmm.
There is a connection issue. Probably Mr. Arif can also write his question in more detail. Here I have another question from how can we build culture and change the attitude of communities with low level of, let's say, Western education and very poor status to comply a disaster risk reduction policy to build resilience against disaster events? So here we have like communities with low level of education, with poverty, and how can we enable them to support the resilience of the country and align with the policy? So how can we change the attitude of these communities? This is a question.
This is very good questions, which I like to talk about actually. Later on, if I may have a chance, I really want to discuss about Park Jung-hee's attitude change at the local village and local community. And they have a very poor absolute poverty and they are sometimes very lazy. They wake up late, not early. So what Park Chung-hee did is that 새마을 movement and 새마을 운동, and they did 잘 살아보세, and they wake up in the morning, and we can change our destiny without all will and commitment. So this kind of movement changing their awareness and education and awakening. But of course, it takes some time, not easily. It's our mindset or our attitude at the lower level and poverty level with the social and natural disaster is, I know that it is hard to change, but with benchmarking about this kind of Park Chung-hee leadership is, I think it is good example to social transformation. Otherwise, easier answer only has an easier outcome, which is not desirable, I think. Do you want to add more?
As I remember very well your speech about how under the leadership of Park Chung-hee, very interestingly, the attitude of Koreans has changed towards work and collaboration and so on. Probably this could be also parts of the future sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any further questions?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Abubakar, please.
Yes. And actually, I was the one that asked the question of the community. How can we change the attitude of the community toward complying with disaster risk reduction technique? And one of the questions that I want to throw here again is a PhD student that is working on disaster risk reduction in some local communities in Nigeria. But the basic problem the difficulty that I'm getting from this community is whenever you are asking them to or you are trying to get some information from them, they will keep on telling you, how can we give you an information when we have no food to eat? After all, this policy that we are trying to implement or we are trying to propose is for their own good. So they keep on staying where they are highly vulnerable to disaster event and so on. So I'm finding it difficult to develop a model on how we can transform their social status so much so that they can comply or they can agree to even give us information about what we are trying to communicate to them so that this disaster risk reduction policy will be highly effective so that these people can at least mitigate or minimize the impact of this disaster.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Professor, is the question clear? Or is it already answered?
Very clear, actually.
Okay.
Adil, do you want to rephrase a little bit?
It's more about when you have communities which are poor, which are not well educated, they have other concerns. It's not easy to change their attitude towards the policy, towards the state, towards disaster, to deal better with disasters, with crisis, like social distancing, for example. It's not easy to convey this knowledge to and change the attitude of poor communities towards this.
Definitely, I agree. So that's why what I said is it takes timing. But I would like to say that two approach is valuable. One is that, effort to communicate, even though it is difficult. That's one issue. The other one issue is that try to find some incentive from their perspective. So try to find what kind of incentive or motivation still make them to change. So this kind of two approach should be needed.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. It's very clear. We have now here the last question. what can be the role of citizen in driving improvements in policy making of a country? So we talked about the policy model and framework and so on, and how it's working, and the state as well. So what's the role of citizen in this process?
Obviously, there is two approach. One approach is top-down approach. The other one is bottom-up approach, of course. And I believe that for the developing countries, I don't know, Korean model is top-down and government-drive approach. So I believe that in the 1960s and 70s, even some 80s, what Korean did is top-down approach. Government is kind of at the core as a change agent. But after 1990s, even in Korea, its democratization is matured, and civil society and citizen should have a much greater role to participation. Using e-government is another good platform. In Seoul, there are a couple of good kind of platform for the citizen to participate in the policy process. And they suggest good alternatives, or they correct it, or they have some feedback to the Seoul policymaking. And then regularly evaluate and even give them some award and prize, and encouraging them in the policy process or digital process. So I would like to say that, I don't know, in Korean experience is that first government has a very kind of progressive and very active role with the social changer. And then as time goes on, local residents and civil society and even citizens has some education and some economic foundations. And then they want to participate in the policy process. So in this kind of external or citizen-oriented policy innovation or creativity, I think it is very important. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us and for your very important questions. Thank you, Professor Kwon, for this nice lecture and very interesting knowledge about policy making, which is something very important in our turbulent times. Effective policy making is crucial to the success and survival and thriving of countries. So we hope to see you in the next sessions and the next courses of policy making. Thank you all for being with us, and we welcome your comments, your ideas for future talks, future topics, and have a nice iftar, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm very glad to see you, even though I cannot see your face. But later on, I hope I want to see your face, but technology may not be allowable. But still, it is very grateful and very glad to see you. And I hope to have a good interaction with you in the near future. Thank you very much. Shukran.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.